was Halloween night, and the house was alive with laughter and music. I stood in the corner, dressed as a ghost, feeling a mix of excitement and nervousness. My friends laughed and danced, but I felt out of place, like I wasn't really in the spirit of the night. The party was going strong when I noticed two guys arguing loudly near the snack table. I tried to ignore it, focusing instead on the punch bowl. I wasn't really thirsty, but it helped ease my tension. Suddenly the argument escalated. Voices rose, people turned to watch, and a chill ran down my spine. Before I could process it, there was a loud bang, and everything changed. It took a second for my brain to catch up to what was happening. A shooting? Was this real? The laughter turned to screams, and people began to panic. I dropped my cup and felt my heart race. I ducked behind the couch, trying to make myself as small as possible. I could hear the chaos around me, shouts, cries, and the distant wail of sirens. My mind raced as I replayed the scene. Who was hurt? What had caused this? All I wanted was to be safe and away from it all. As the cops arrived, flashing lights lit up the house. I peeked out from behind the couch, my heart pounding. I saw people being led out, some with injuries. The next day of school, rumors started that the fight started over a girl. It's crazy how a single argument can turn into that. I'm glad no one died, but it's still such a shame. Halloween, once my favorite night, had turned into a nightmare, and I knew it would never feel the same. It was Halloween night, and I went to a party with my friends. We all had a good time, but things could get weird with Zach. He liked to think he ran the group and could be a real jerk. We all knew he was a decent guy deep down, but he could annoy us too. At the party, everyone was drinking, everyone but me. I didn't want to get drunk. I was still sad about my breakup just a week before. I watched my friends have fun while I sat there, feeling out of place. Eventually, I decided it was time to go home. They all wanted me to stay and drink, but Zach was being annoying again, so I left. The walk back to our dorm was quiet, and I breathed in the cool night air. But then I noticed a shadow behind me. I didn't think much of it at first. Maybe it was just someone out for a late-night stroll. But as I turned onto a different street, I saw him follow me. My heart started to race. This was getting creepy. I quickened my pace, thinking maybe I could lose him, but every time I looked back, he was still there. Panic set in, and I broke into a run. After just a half a block, I glanced back again, and he was running too. This was no accident. I was definitely being followed. I spotted a house with a dark yard and ducked behind it. I tried to catch my breath, my heart pounding like a drum. I stayed quiet, hoping he would pass by. After what felt like forever, I finally pulled out my phone and called an Uber. When the car pulled up, I peeked out from behind the house. I didn't see him, but I wasn't taking any chances. I dashed to the car and jumped in. As I pulled away, I couldn't believe how lucky I was to have escaped. I was so relieved to be safe, far away from whoever that guy was. It was Halloween night in the late 80s, and I was home alone, excited to give out candy to the trick-or-treaters. My parents had decided to take a weekend trip, leaving me in charge of our cozy little house. The evening started out great. Kids dressed in costumes raced up and down the street, laughter echoing through the cool autumn air as I poured candy into bright orange bags. As the clock ticked towards 10 p.m., I noticed a figure lingering at the edge of the driveway. He was wearing a Michael Myers costume, gray coveralls, a creepy white mask that hid his face, and he didn't seem to belong to any of the groups of kids. He was alone, standing there, and every 30 minutes or so, he would wander back to my porch, holding out a small bag in anticipation. You were just here," I would say, trying to mask the unease creeping into my chest. Each time, he would simply nod silently, his eyes hidden beneath the mask. My nerves shot up with every return, and I wasn't sure if he was playing a trick or if something was genuinely off about him. Finally, I couldn't shake the feeling any longer. Okay, that's enough. You need to stop coming back, all right? I snapped at him, trying to sound more assertive than I felt. He stared at me in silence, a bizarre calmness in his demeanor that was unsettling, before turning away and disappearing into the darkness. Relieved, I thought the weirdness was over, and after a while, I turned off the porch light, closed the door, and began to settle down for the night. I decided to take a shower, attempting to wash off the unease of the evening. I called my best friend, Lisa, telling her about the strange guy in the Michael Myers costume, and we both laughed it off. She thought it was just funny, a typical Halloween prank. I hung up feeling a little better, but something still nagged at me. Later, as I lay in bed, pulling the covers tightly around me, I suddenly woke up to an eerie silence in the house. The clock on my nightstand read 11:30 p.m. That's when I noticed my bedroom door was slightly ajar, which was strange. I always closed it before bed. I felt a chill sweep through the room, goosebumps rising on my skin from the unexpected cold. I swung my legs over the side of the bed, my heart pounding with unease as I stepped out of the covers. I crept towards the door, peeking into the darkened hallway. An unsettling thought crossed my mind. Had I forgotten to lock the back door after giving out candy? As I walked down the hallway, I noticed the back door was wide open. Fear gripped my chest. What if someone had come in? Panic sent me racing back to my room, but as I did, I felt a strong hand clamp down on my mouth from behind. I froze, fighting against the pressure of the grip. With adrenaline surging through me, I twisted away from the hold, finally breaking free and gasping for breath. It was him, the guy from earlier, clad in that damned Michael Myers costume. My instincts kicked in. I sprinted out the front door, barely stopping to catch my breath as I pounded on my neighbor's door. I could hear my voice trembling as I screamed for help. The police arrived quickly, taking my frantic recounting seriously. They searched the house, moving through every room, but the intruder was nowhere to be found. My parents were informed and rushed home from their trip, concerned and shaken by the news. The relief of being safe was overshadowed by the chill that settled in my bones. The stranger in the Michael Myers costume had vanished into thin air as if he'd never been there at all. 5 months later, our family packed up and moved out. The trauma lingered, a dark shadow over what had once been a happy home. Even now, every Halloween sends a shiver through me, and I can't shake the feeling that somewhere out there, he's still lurking, waiting for another unsuspecting victim. To make matters worse, whoever that guy was ended up coming back the next Halloween to the people that my parents sold that house to. Although we're not 100%, it was the same guy. A guy in a Michael Myers costume did come about 5 times, they said, just to ask for candy. And I know this because my mom told me after the new owners contacted her. They were family friends and they knew about the accident, but they didn't care. Apparently this time he did speak and said trick or treat with a really deep voice, which indicated that he was a grown man, at least this guy was. They said they were really weirded out and told him to stop coming back. But he came back still, and after the 5th time they decided to just call the cops. But nothing came about it. To this day, we have no idea who that man was.